Hello everyone and welcome back to Cute Crochet. My name is Sri and in today's video I am going to show you how to make this Harry Potter scarf, or to be more accurate, a Hogwarts house scarf. This is the style of scarf for the older students. I have made a video on the scarves for the younger first and second year students, and I will leave a link to it in the descriptions and an eye for it will pop up in the corner. This scarf is super simple to make. It has only one type of stitch, the single crochet, which makes it perfect for beginners, and it also gives this crisp lines. However, single crochets take the most amount of yarn and it takes the longest to make, so keep that in mind before starting this project. If you want a quicker project, you can check out the other type of scarf. I have made these scarves in the colors of Gryffindor and Slytherin. You are of course going to make yours in your own house colors. I am actually neither of these houses. I am a Hufflepuff, but I have a scarf already and I always wanted to put a patch on my scarf, so I got the cheapest set of patches I could find on Amazon. The pack came with the school crest and the patches for all the 4 houses, which inspired me to make all the scarves. The colors on these are not quite right, but once you put them on they look pretty cool and I am happy with how they look. I will leave a link to them in the descriptions. So let's get started. I'm going to use the colors of Slytherin, which are green and grey. I think these 2 shades are spot on. We are going to start with our green color. Then make a slip knot in any way you feel comfortable. I am using 4 ply yarn and with it I am using a 4mm crochet hook. Then chain 33. The length of this chain will determine the width of your scarf. I find that 33 chains is a pretty good width, and also this helps you to space out your tassels evenly. Here we have our 33 chains. Now we are going to chain one more. Then we are going to skip that first chain and make one single crochet into that second chain. Insert your hook into the second chain and pull up a loop. You will have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through 2, and that completes one single crochet. We are going to make single crochets in each of the chains of this row. So 33 in total. Here I am almost at the end of the row. I am placing one last single crochet into the last chain, and here we have one row of single crochets complete. Now in case of single crochets we usually chain one before turning, but in this case we are just going to turn without chaining one. In my experience that keeps the edges straighter, and I also feel it's more sturdy, it doesn't stretch out as easily. Directly place one single crochet into that first stitch. That first single crochet will look a little bit different. It will stand up in an awkward way, but it will be fine once you get used to it. Then continue making single crochets in each of the single crochets of the previous row. Here I am almost at the end of row 2. I am going to place one last single crochet in that last stitch. I have 33 single crochets in total for this row. Again I am going to repeat row 2, turn without chaining, and then place one single crochet in each of the single crochets of the previous row. Here at this slightly awkward first single crochet, it will be a little bit tight to get into, but you can get in there with a little bit wiggling. We are going to place one single crochet there as well. So now we have 3 rows complete. From now on we are going to continue to repeat row 2 again and again. For the first section, we are going to do 20 rows. After that, we are going to change colors. I will finish that and meet back up with you. Here I have finished making 20 rows. Now I am done with the first section of color. So I am going to chain one and fasten off. Next, we are going to make the first gray stripe, so we are going to change the color to gray. To do that, wrap your yarn on your crochet hook like this. Then turn over your work and insert your hook into the last stitch we made and make a slip stitch. Make sure that you are going over that green tail and you are going over the last chain one that we made. We are going to work over these tails so that we don't have to weave them in afterwards. Continue to make single crochets in each one of the single crochets of the previous row. If you notice, I have kept the tails, the grey one on top and the green one on the bottom, so that they blend in seamlessly into the sections. For this grey color, we are going to make 3 rows. I am going to finish that and meet back up with you. Here I am almost at the end of the last row. I am going to make one single crochet into that last stitch. Then I am going to chain one and fasten off. Again change the color back to green in the same way as before. Wrap your yarn on your crochet hook. Always join the color on the same side that you left off. For this green color, we are again going to make 3 rows. Here I have made the 3 green rows. I am now going to chain one and fasten off this color. Then we are again going to change our color back to grey and make one more stripe in the same way, 3 rows. After joining a new color and making a few stitches, if your previous row is sticking out on the side a little bit like this, then you can pull on the tail of the corresponding color to make it flush on the side like this. Here I finished making the second grey stripe. Now I am going to change the color back to green. Now we are going to make 19 rows using this green color. Make sure that you are not doing 20, you are doing exactly 19 rows. Here I have finished making the 19 rows. I am going to chain one and fasten off. Now if you notice, the bottom section here has 20 rows while the top section has 19 rows. I have done that intentionally because this first row here will essentially get consumed once we make the tassels. Also, we want our stripes to face the same way, and to have that we are going to have to make the rows in between odd numbers, 3 here and then 19. It's fairly easy to distinguish between the two sides of the stripe. On one side your stitches will look like A's like this, while on the other side it will look like tiny V's like this. It is important to note this because if your stripes are not facing the same way, they won't look even. I can show you that on this failed piece I was making where I had made 2 rows in between the stripes instead of 3. You can clearly see the 2 rows are facing opposite directions, and you can see that they are different in width. There is a slight difference that you can clearly see once you see them side by side. While you can see these 2 rows are clearly of the same width, this row is wider than this row, and that is exactly what we want to avoid. So just make odd number of rows. We are basically going to continue repeating the same thing. After the 19 rows, we are going to change the color to grey, 3 rows, back to green, 3 rows, back to grey, 3 rows and again 19 rows, and continue that until your scarf is long enough. I like to make these scarves pretty long, about 80 inches. I will finish that and meet back up with you. Here I have finished making the scarf long enough. It is 80 inches long. I have already made the tassels on one end and I am going to show you how to make them on the other side. On this last section here, I have made 20 rows similar to the first section. For the tassels, you need to wrap your yarn around something that is of the right size. I am using this post-it note pad here, but you can use anything. If you want longer tassels, you can use something that is wider, or you can also use your fingers. I am wrapping my yarn around it 10 times, but if you want thicker tassels, you can do it a few more times. Then cut the yarn and remove the loops. Then split the loops on one end to make 10 roughly equal strands of yarn. Fold all the strands in half and hold them tightly on one end. Then insert your hook into that first stitch. For the first tassel, I am also going to include this tail that I left after fastening off. Use the crochet hook to pull the loops through that first stitch. Make sure that you don't pull too hard or it will go all the way through. Just pull it enough so that your fingers can fit through it. Then pull the tails through that loop. Take your time to neaten up the tassel by pulling on the yarn individually. In the end, trim the tassel a little bit to even it out. I am going to make tassels all the way across this edge, spacing them out evenly. I am going to leave 3 stitches in between each tassel. Since we have 33 stitches here, we should end up with 9 evenly spaced tassels. Then you are going to match them up to the tassel next to them and trim them to make them even. Here I put on all the tassels and even them out. I have wet them so that they lay flatter. Now all that's left is sewing on the patch. Leave equal number of stitches on either side of it to make sure that it is centered. To sew it on, I am using a needle and a black thread. I am first tying a knot at the end of it. Trim the tail close to that knot and then we can start sewing. Come in from the back following the edge of the patch so that the knot is on the back. Then when I start sewing, I am not going all the way through the scarf. Instead, I am picking up the first few loops from the scarf and making the stitch. That way the stitch won't show in the back. Continue like this all the way around following the edge of the patch. Make your stitches nice and even so that they look neat. Once you have gone all the way around, tie a couple of knots at the end to secure it in place. And there we go, our scarf is complete. The patch looks pretty good and the stitches don't show at all in the back. I hope you guys like this video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.